What's your favorite question to ask someone who's somewhere ahead of you on the path in wisdom, insight, and perspective? What's the question you ask somebody who's maybe 10 years ahead of where you are and you want to gain some insight from them? Here's mine. I just used it recently. The question was, you're 10 years ahead of me. What have you learned in the last 10 years that will help me as I go through my next 10? Now, this was a lunchtime conversation, but really, or a lunchtime learning that actually was a dinner time learning, because it was dinner in Austin with John and Holly Prescott. John's celebrating his 60th this year, and I'm celebrating my 50th. So I asked him the question, what have you learned in the last decade, the last 10 years of your life that will help me as I go into my next 10? Here's 3 things he told me. He cited that there's a couple of studies that have been done of what do people say on their deathbed or in their latter years as they look back over their life, and there's studies that are done. But what he shared with me that was most important, he said, you know, the first thing, live life according to your purpose. Not somebody else's, not your family's purpose, not your parents' purpose for you, but what's yours. You got to live your life, the life that you're meant to live. That was his first thing. The second thing was make sure you're taking care of yourself. From a health standpoint, you know, both mentally and physically, from a financial standpoint, you know, make sure that you're taking care of you, because you can't give to others if you're not taking care of yourself. The third thing that he mentioned was making sure that we're investing good time in quality conversation to get quality insight. He said, have you ever been in a conversation with somebody and you're the one who's asking all the questions of them, and they're sharing, but they're not asking questions in return? And this is so important that we get the exchange going on, and we find out as much as we possibly can. Here's what happened. Actually, that day, earlier in the day, I'd been in an exercise with a couple of people that knew each other well. And I said, see what you can find out new from the person you think you know well. And John looked at Jeremy, and they were having this conversation. And something about the way that John asked a question caused Jeremy to kind of go like this. He said, that's a good question. Let me think about what I learned in that scenario. So a question from somebody that knew him well caused him to go in and relearn a lesson or learn something new and then share it. So have a great question. Number one thing, what do you know that I should know? You know, what have you learned in the last 10 years that will help me in my next 10? That was the framework for the conversation. And then what are you doing to make sure that you're living according to your purpose? And what am I doing to make sure I'm living according to my purpose? And what are we doing to take care of ourselves? And what are we doing to invest quality time with quality people having quality conversations? It will change our lives when we're taking care of those areas. Thanks, John, for the lesson, and thank you for joining me today.